Some secrets are written in ink. Others are signed in blood. Picture this: an upscale Manhattan restaurant, soft jazz playing, crystal chandeliers, white tablecloths, the kind of place where old money whispers and new money shouts. A pregnant black woman sits alone at a corner table, one hand resting protectively on her 8-month belly. She's beautiful. Elegant, natural hair styled in a low twist, minimal makeup, a cream silk maternity dress that somehow looks effortless and expensive at once. There's a quiet dignity in the way she holds herself, a stillness that comes from carrying more than just a child. Her name is Naomi Laurent Volkov. And tonight, everything changes. Across the restaurant, a woman approaches, tall, blonde, dripping in diamonds that catch the light like warnings, designer dress slit dangerously high, red lipstick applied like war paint. She walks like she owns every room she enters. Isabella Crane, former model, current mistress, and the woman who's been sleeping with Naomi's husband for the past 21 months. Isabella stops at Naomi's table, tilting her head with practiced cruelty. "Still playing house, I see," she says, loud enough for nearby tables to hear. "How quaint." Naomi doesn't flinch. She simply looks up, meeting Isabella's gaze with a kind of calm that makes dangerous people nervous. "Isabella," she says softly, "still playing dress-up in jewelry you didn't earn?" Isabella's smile sharpens like a blade. "At least Alexei actually wants to see me. When's the last time your husband came home before midnight, or touched you without thinking of me?" The question hangs in the air like poison. Several diners turn to watch. This is about to be a scene. Naomi sets down her water glass, slowly, deliberately, and when she speaks, her voice carries the weight of someone who's been preparing for this moment for a very long time. "You think you know him. You think because he buys you things, whispers promises, takes you to hotels when I'm supposedly away, that makes you special. That makes you chosen." "I am chosen," Isabella sneers louder now. "He chose me. Every night for almost 2 years. What does that say about you?" "It says he's weak." Naomi reaches into her purse calmly. "And you're convenient. There's a difference." She pulls out a single document, aged parchment, official seals, covered in Cyrillic script and English text, with signatures in what looks unmistakably like dried blood. Isabella's face goes white as she recognizes some of the words. Russian words, legal words, Krovnaya Kliatva, blood oath. "You didn't know about this, did you?" Naomi says quietly, voice steady as stone. "The covenant Alexei signed when he married me, the one his family witnessed, the one that says if he ever violates our marriage bond, through infidelity, abandonment, or betrayal, his entire empire transfers to me. Every business, every account, every property, everything." She pauses, letting that sink in. "And his family's enemies, and there are many, get notified of his exact location, his vulnerabilities, his secrets. Everything that makes him untouchable becomes the reason he's hunted." Isabella's hands tremble. "You're bluffing. Try me." Naomi stands slowly, one hand on her belly, the other holding the document like a weapon. "I have 21 months of documentation, hotel receipts, text messages, photos, financial records showing he's been paying for your apartment, your car, your lifestyle. Emails where he promised to leave me, voicemails where you both mocked my pregnancy." Isabella's confident mask cracks completely. "So here's what's going to happen," Naomi continues, voice cold and clear. "You're going to leave New York. Tonight, you're going to block his number, delete every photo, disappear. And if you ever speak to me, my husband, or anyone in this family again, I make one phone call. And Alexei Volkov will face consequences that make heartbreak look gentle." She steps closer, lowering her voice so only Isabella can hear. "You thought you were playing a game. You weren't. You were a move in mine, and I just won." Isabella turns and runs, literally runs out of the restaurant, diamonds flashing, heels clicking frantically against marble. And Naomi? She sits back down, orders dessert, eats every bite, because she's been playing the long game all along, and tonight was just the opening move. Let's go back to where it really started. Stories like this take days of research and hours of writing to bring to life for you. Every twist, every moment of power reclaimed, it's crafted with care because we know you're here for the truth, not just the drama. If you enjoy hearing real stories of women who refuse to be broken, please take a second to subscribe. It helps us keep telling them. And trust me, you won't believe where this story goes next. Now let's dive into how a brilliant woman married into the mafia and made sure she could never be erased. Naomi Laurent didn't grow up in the world of private security and blood oaths. She grew up in Brooklyn, in a third-floor walk-up where her grandmother raised her on a school teacher's pension and the kind of wisdom that didn't need money to feel powerful. She earned a full scholarship to Columbia Law, graduated top of her class, and spent 5 years working for a nonprofit that helped refugees navigate the brutally complex American legal system. She was brilliant, dedicated, and completely unprepared for Alexei Volkov. She met him at a fundraiser she'd been dragged to by her nonprofit's director. Networking, her boss had said. We need donors. Naomi hated fundraisers, hated the performative charity, the champagne activism, the wealthy people who wanted to feel good without actually doing good. She was standing near the exit, checking her watch, when he appeared. "You're the only person in this room not pretending to care," he said in a voice that carried a faint Russian accent wrapped around perfect English. She turned and found herself looking at possibly the most beautiful man she'd ever seen. 34, tall, dark hair, gray-green eyes that seemed to see too much, expensive suit that somehow looked understated rather than showy. "I do care," Naomi replied carefully. "That's why I'm not pretending." He smiled, actually smiled. "What's your name?" "Naomi Laurent. And you are?" "Alexei Volkov. And I think I just met someone actually worth talking to." He courted her like she was rare and precious. Not roses, orchids, because he'd researched that she preferred them. Not clubs, museums, bookstores, late-night conversations in diners where they were the last customers. Not gifts, questions, real questions, about her work, her dreams, her grandmother's stories, her theories on justice. He listened like her words mattered. For 6 months, it was perfect. Then he told her the truth. They were in his penthouse, winter, snow falling outside the floor-to-ceiling windows. "There's something you need to know about my family," he said, voice careful. "I already know," Naomi said quietly. "I'm a lawyer, Alexei. I researched you after our third date." He blinked. "And you're still here?" "The Volkov family has complicated business interests, some legitimate, some less so. Your grandfather came to America in 1991 with connections to what Americans call the Russian Mafia. Though that's not quite accurate. It's more structured, old families, old codes, old power. You're not afraid?" "I'm cautious," Naomi corrected. "There's a difference. If I marry you," Alexei said slowly, "there are traditions, rules. My family takes marriage very seriously. It's not just love, it's alliance, protection, bond. I understand contracts. This one is different." He pulled out a leather folder. Inside, aged parchment covered in Russian and English text. It's called a krovnaya kliatva, a blood oath. Both parties sign, literally, in blood. Witnesses from both families, registered with private arbitrators who serve families like mine. What does it guarantee? Absolute loyalty, Alexei said. If either party violates the bond, infidelity, betrayal, abandonment, everything transfers to the wrong spouse. All assets, all power, all protection. and the guilty party's enemies are notified of their vulnerability. He paused, watching her carefully. It's meant to ensure that marriage means something, that neither party can simply walk away or betray without catastrophic consequences. Naomi read the document, every word, every clause, her legal mind cataloging the implications. This is actually enforceable? By my family standards? Absolutely. Would an American court recognize it? No. But the people who matter in my world would, and they're the ones who actually enforce consequences. So if you cheat on me, you become one of the wealthiest, most protected women in New York, and I become hunted by families who've waited decades for an opening. Naomi looked at him for a long moment. And you're willing to sign this? For you? Yes. Why? Because I'm tired of being afraid, Alexei said honestly. Afraid of becoming my father, of treating marriage like a business deal, of being another rich man who takes and never gives anything real. He took her hand. You make me want to be better. And this oath? It's my promise that I won't forget that. Naomi studied his face, saw the sincerity, the vulnerability. Then I'll sign it too. They married 4 months later. Small ceremony, both families present. Naomi's grandmother flew in from Brooklyn and sat beside Elena Volkov, Alexei's formidable grandmother, the true power behind the family name. And yes, there was the document, old parchment, Russian and English text side by side. They signed it in blood, a small needle prick, their signatures mixing crimson and black ink. Witnesses signed below. Elena, Naomi's grandmother, family members from both sides. It was binding. Not legally, no American court would touch it, but in the only court that mattered to the Volkovs, it was absolute. The first year was extraordinary. Alexei was attentive, present. He involved her in his legitimate businesses, tech investments, real estate, philanthropic ventures, kept the darker family matters separate. Naomi threw herself into learning, Russian language, cultural traditions, family dynamics. She built a relationship with Elena, who studied her with sharp, assessing eyes. You're clever, Elena said one afternoon over tea. Good, my grandson needs someone clever. Too many beautiful, empty women want him for money. You want him for something real. I want partnership, Naomi said honestly. Then remember this, in our world, love is not enough. You must be valuable, irreplaceable. Never let him forget what you bring beyond beauty and affection. Naomi never forgot those words. 18 months into their marriage, things began to shift. Alexei traveled more. Business expansion, he said. Came home later. Smelled like unfamiliar perfume. Stopped asking about her day. Started taking phone calls in other rooms. Naomi noticed, but she didn't confront. She documented, quietly, carefully. She noted dates, times, patterns, and when the inconsistencies became impossible to ignore, when Boston showed charges in Manhattan, when client dinners happened at hotels, she hired someone. Not a private investigator exactly, a former client from her nonprofit days, a woman who'd escaped an abusive marriage and rebuilt her life as an information specialist, someone who understood the importance of evidence, someone who owed Naomi her freedom. The report came back in 3 weeks. Isabella Crane, 29, former fashion model turned brand consultant, which seemed to mean woman paid to look beautiful at events. She'd been seen with Alexei 6 times in the past 3 months. Hotels, late nights, always when Naomi was supposedly visiting her grandmother or working late. Naomi read the report 3 times. Then she locked it in a safety deposit box Elena had given her as a wedding gift. For important documents, Elena had said meaningfully, and Naomi said nothing to Alexei, because she just discovered she was pregnant, 6 weeks along, and she needed to be strategic. If you suspected betrayal early, would you gather evidence quietly like Naomi, or blow it up immediately? What's your go-to strategy in heartbreak? For the next 15 months, Naomi played the role of the perfect, oblivious wife. She smiled at events, attended family gatherings, decorated the nursery, prepared for motherhood, and she documented everything, every unexplained absence, every inconsistent story, every late-night emergency meeting. Her information specialist became her silent partner. Hotel security footage, credit card receipts, text message records recovered through methods Naomi didn't ask about and didn't need to know. By the time Naomi was 8 months pregnant, she had 21 months of evidence, a complete timeline of betrayal, and Isabella had gotten bold. Month 19 of the affair, Isabella stopped being careful. She posted Instagram photos that barely cropped Alexei out, wore jewelry that Naomi recognized from Alexei's favorite jeweler, sent Naomi flowers, white lilies, funeral flowers, with cards that read, "Thinking of you and the baby." The cruelty was intentional. Isabella wanted Naomi to know, wanted her to feel powerless. When Naomi confronted Alexei about the flowers, he barely looked up from his phone. "She's unstable. A former client who developed an obsession. I'm handling it." "By sleeping with her?" His face went cold. "Careful, Naomi." "Or what?" She placed one hand on her swollen belly. "You'll leave? You signed a blood oath, Alexei. Or did you forget what that means?" "That's a tradition, a formality. It absolutely does," Naomi interrupted, voice ice cold. "Your grandmother made sure every clause was ironclad. Your family's lawyers drafted it. Those private arbitrators, they work for families who don't recognize American courts. And if you think your enemies wouldn't celebrate knowing you're vulnerable..." Alexei went pale, because she was right. The Volkov family had enemies, old ones, patient ones, families who remembered grudges from decades past, who'd been waiting for any weakness. "You wouldn't," he said. "Try me." He didn't leave Isabella, he just got better at hiding, and Naomi got better at collecting evidence. The breaking point came on a Tuesday night in February. Naomi was 8 months pregnant, exhausted, swollen. The baby pressed against her ribs constantly, making it hard to breathe, hard to sleep, hard to think. She'd been craving pasta from a specific Italian restaurant in Manhattan. Alexei was in Boston again. She decided to go alone. One peaceful meal, one moment of normalcy before everything changed. She ordered her pasta, sat in a quiet corner, tried to enjoy the moment. Then Isabella walked in. Isabella stops at Naomi's table, tilting her head with practiced cruelty. "Still playing house, I see," she says, loud enough for nearby tables to hear. "How quaint." Naomi doesn't flinch. She simply looks up, meeting Isabella's gaze with the kind of calm that makes dangerous people nervous. "Isabella," she says softly, "still playing dress-up in jewelry you didn't earn?" Isabella's smile sharpens like a blade. "At least Alexei actually wants to see me. When's the last time your husband came home before midnight, or touched you without thinking of me?" The question hangs in the air like poison. Several diners turn to watch. This is about to be a scene. Naomi sets down her water glass, slowly, deliberately. And when she speaks, her voice carries the weight of someone who's been preparing for this moment for a very long time. "You think you know him. You think because he buys you things, whispers promises, takes you to hotels when I'm supposedly away, that makes you special. That makes you chosen." "I am chosen," Isabella sneers louder now. "He chose me, every night for almost 2 years. What does that say about you?" "It says he's weak." Naomi reaches into her purse calmly. "And you're convenient. There's a difference." She pulls out a single document, aged parchment, official seals, covered in Cyrillic script and English text, with signatures in what looks unmistakably like dried blood. Isabella's face goes white as she recognizes some of the words. Russian words, legal words, Krovnaya Kliatva, blood oath. You didn't know about this, did you? Naomi says quietly, voice steady as stone. The covenant Alexei signed when he married me, the one his family witnessed, the one that says if he ever violates our marriage bond through infidelity, abandonment, or betrayal, his entire empire transfers to me. Every business, every account, every property, everything. She pauses, letting that sink in. And his family's enemies, and there are many, get notified of his exact location, his vulnerabilities, his secrets. Everything that makes him untouchable becomes the reason he's hunted. Isabella's hands tremble. You're bluffing. Try me. Naomi stands slowly, one hand on her belly, the other holding the document like a weapon. I have 21 months of documentation, hotel receipts, text messages, photos, financial records showing he's been paying for your apartment, your car, your lifestyle. Emails where he promised to leave me. Voicemails where you both mocked my pregnancy. Isabella's confident mask cracks completely. So here's what's going to happen, Naomi continues, voice cold and clear. You're going to leave New York, tonight. You're going to block his number, delete every photo, disappear, and if you ever speak to me, my husband, or anyone in this family again, I make one phone call. And Alexei Volkov will face consequences that make heartbreak look gentle. She steps closer, lowering her voice so only Isabella can hear. You thought you were playing a game. You weren't. You were a move in mine, and I just won. Isabella turns and runs. Naomi finishes her meal, and then she makes the call. Alexei's phone rings at 9:47 p.m. He's not in Boston. He's in Isabella's apartment in Chelsea. They're watching a movie. She's curled against him. He's pretending this is sustainable. He sees Naomi's name, almost doesn't answer. Then something in his gut tells him he'd better. Naomi, is everything? We need to talk, tonight, now. I'm in Boston, I told you. You're in Manhattan, Chelsea. I have the address, the apartment number, and footage of you entering 90 minutes ago. Her voice is perfectly calm, terrifyingly calm. You have 1 hour to get home, or I make the call to the arbitrators. 1 hour, Alexei. She hangs up. Isabella looks at him, confused. What was? He's already grabbing his coat. I have to go. What? Why? Because my wife just activated a clause I prayed she'd never use. He arrives home in 43 minutes. Naomi is sitting in the living room, lights low. She's changed into comfortable clothes, made tea, put her swollen feet up. She looks calm. That terrifies him more than screaming would have. Naomi, listen. Sit. He sits. She slides the blood oath across the coffee table. Then a second folder, thick with documents. 21 months, she says quietly. I've been documenting your affair with Isabella Crane for 21 months, since month 3 of my pregnancy. Why didn't you confront you? She smiles sadly. Because I needed to be certain. I needed to know if you'd stop, if you'd choose us. Her hand rests on her belly. But you didn't stop. You just got sneakier. So now we're here. She opens the second folder. Photos, hotel receipts, text messages, credit card statements, even video footage. I have everything, she continues. Every lie, every hotel, every gift you bought her with money from our accounts. Every time you told me you loved me and then went to her bed. Alexei stares at the evidence. His face goes gray. What do you want? I want you to choose, Naomi says. Right now, me and this baby, or Isabella and the consequences written in that oath. That's not, it's exactly fair, she interrupts. You signed this knowing the stakes. Your grandmother warned you. Your father warned you. I warned you, and you did it anyway. I'll end it, he says hoarsely. Tonight, I'll end it right now. You'll do more than that. Naomi pulls out a third document. You'll sign this addendum. Additional terms. Marriage counseling, real counseling, with Dr. Mikhail Sokolov, who specializes in high-stakes relationships. Couples therapy twice a week for a minimum of 6 months. Complete financial transparency. And if you violate the bond again, ever, I trigger the original oath immediately. No warnings, no second chances. You're asking me to... I'm not asking, Naomi says quietly. I'm telling you the terms of staying married to me. You can accept them, or I make one phone call and you lose everything. Alexei looks at her, at his wife, 8 months pregnant with his child. Calm, certain, holding all the power he thought he had. You'd really destroy me? You destroyed us first, Naomi replies. I'm just making sure you can't do it again. He signs the addendum. That night, in blood, as tradition requires. Alexei texts Isabella at 6:47 a.m. It's over. Don't contact me again. I've instructed my lawyers to ensure you're taken care of. 3 months of your current expense coverage, then you're on your own. Leave New York. If you contact me, my wife, or my family again, there will be legal consequences. This is not negotiable. Isabella calls 14 times. He blocks her number. By noon, she's booked a flight to Los Angeles. By sunset, she's gone. Dr. Mikhail Sokolov didn't do trust falls or feeling circles. He did reality. Former military psychologist, Russian, now specialized in what he called high-consequence relationships. Couples where the stakes of failure weren't just divorce, but danger. First session, first question. Mr. Volkov, why did you cheat? Alexei shifted uncomfortably in the leather chair. Things got complicated. Work stress, the pregnancy, I felt. So you're weak, Dr. Sokolov interrupted. Excuse me? You are weak. Your wife carried your child, maintained your household, built relationships with your family, and you couldn't handle the pressure of being faithful. That's weakness. Alexei's jaw tightened. I don't care what you think. I care about facts. Dr. Sokolov turned to Naomi. And you? Why did you wait 21 months? I needed evidence. No, you needed control. You could have left at month 3, filed for separation, triggered the oath when you first suspected. But you waited, documented, built a case. Why? Naomi met his eyes. Because I wanted to be sure. Of what? That he was worth saving. Silence filled the room. Dr. Sokolov nodded. Good. Now we can start. The sessions were brutal. Not in volume, Dr. Sokolov rarely raised his voice, but in precision. He cut through every excuse, every deflection, every comfortable lie they'd been telling themselves. I felt invisible, he admitted, voice cracking. Naomi was so competent, so strong. She handled everything, the apartment, my family, the pregnancy. She didn't need me. I started to feel like just a bank account, a name she'd married, not a husband. So you found someone who made you feel needed, Dr. Sokolov observed. Yes. By lying to both women, by betraying the person who trusted you most. Very heroic. Alexei flinched like he'd been slapped. Week 5, Naomi's breakthrough. I was terrified, she whispered, tears finally coming after months of iron control. I was pregnant, in a family I didn't fully understand, married to a man whose world could destroy me if they wanted. So I made myself indispensable. I learned everything, documented everything, made sure I had leverage. You didn't trust him, Dr. Sokolov said. No, I didn't. Did you ever? Naomi paused, really thinking. Not completely. I trusted that he loved me, but I never trusted that love would be enough to protect me. Then you were both playing games, Dr. Sokolov said. He wanted to feel powerful. You wanted to feel safe. Neither of you wanted to be vulnerable. And vulnerability is the only thing that makes marriage real. Week 8, everything almost fell apart. Naomi went into labor. Early, 36 weeks. Complications. The baby was breech, blood pressure spiking, emergency C-section. Alexei didn't leave her side. Not for coffee, not for calls, not for anything. When the surgeon said there were complications, potential hemorrhaging, they might need to choose between mother and child, Alexei grabbed the doctor's arm. "You save my wife," he said, voice breaking. "You save her first, whatever it costs, whatever it takes." The doctor nodded. Hours later, when both Naomi and their daughter survived, tiny, perfect, screaming her arrival into the world, Alexei collapsed into the chair beside Naomi's bed and wept. "I'm so sorry," he whispered, holding Naomi's hand, "for everything, for almost losing this, for almost losing you." "I know," Naomi said, exhausted but alive. "We'll fix it, together. Promise? If you promise to actually try." "I swear it." He looked at their daughter. "On her, on that oath, on everything I have left, I swear it." 2 weeks after the birth, Elena Volkov requested a private meeting with Naomi. They met at Elena's brownstone. Tea, pastries, Naomi's daughter sleeping in a carrier beside her. "You handled Isabella well," Elena said, studying Naomi with those sharp eyes. "Thank you." "Too well, perhaps." Elena sipped her tea. "You're not afraid of my grandson, that's good. But you're also not forgiving him. That's complicated. He broke our marriage." "Yes, and you broke his pride." Elena set down her cup. "I'm not saying he was right. He wasn't. But if you stay in this marriage only because of that contract, you'll both be miserable." "What are you suggesting?" "Decide if you want him or if you just want to win." Naomi looked down at her sleeping daughter. "Can't I want both?" Elena smiled, genuine, warm, approving. "Now you sound like a Volkov." She reached into her bag and pulled out a legal document. "I'm changing my will. 20% of my personal estate, separate from family holdings, will go to you directly. Not to Alexei, not to trust funds, to you, for the foundation work you've been planning, for our granddaughter, for whatever you choose." "Elena, I can't." "You already have," Elena interrupted. "You saved this family, not just the marriage, the family's honor. You reminded us what we're supposed to stand for. Loyalty, consequences, dignity." She paused, voice softening. "You're more Volkov than half my blood relatives, and I want to make sure you're protected. Always." Naomi's throat tightened. "Thank you." "Don't thank me. Just keep being exactly who you are, and make my grandson work for you every single day." 6 months after the restaurant confrontation, 6 months of twice-weekly therapy, of Alexei coming home every night, of slowly rebuilding something that looked like trust, Naomi made a decision. She called a family meeting. Elena, Alexei, the family lawyers, the arbitrators who held the original blood oath. "I want to amend the oath," she said. Everyone froze. "Amend it how?" Elena asked carefully. "The current terms are punitive. He violates the bond again, I take everything. But that's not a marriage, that's a prison. For both of us." She pulled out new documents. New terms. If Alexei violates the bond again, the original oath triggers immediately. But if we successfully complete 1 full year of counseling, if we both demonstrate genuine effort to rebuild trust, then we can revisit the terms again. Consider making them more partnership-oriented. "And if you don't make it through the year," Elena asked, "then the original terms stand, and I trigger them myself if needed." Alexei stared at her. "You're giving me another structured chance." "I'm giving us a chance," Naomi corrected, "but with clear terms, clear consequences, no ambiguity." She looked at him directly. "I don't want to be married to someone I'm controlling through fear, But I also won't be married to someone who takes my forgiveness for granted. So this is the middle ground. You work, I work. We both risk being vulnerable, and in a year, we see if we built something real. Alexei looked at his daughter sleeping in Elena's arms, at his wife, brilliant, strategic, offering him a framework for redemption. I'll sign it, he said. I know you will, Naomi replied, because now you understand what you have to lose. They signed the amendment that day, in blood, as tradition required, but this time it felt different, less like a threat, more like a promise. Do you think giving him this structured second chance was smart or too generous? Would you have been able to offer that kind of framework, or would you have walked away? Drop your thoughts below. The Volkov Foundation's annual charity gala was the event of the season. 500 guests, Manhattan's elite, international dignitaries, press everywhere. And Naomi had spent 6 weeks preparing, not just the event logistics, though she'd handled those flawlessly, but preparing herself. She was 6 months postpartum now. Her body had changed. She was learning to balance motherhood and marriage and the foundation work she'd thrown herself into. But tonight, she looked like power incarnate. A custom emerald silk gown that made her look both regal and dangerous. Natural locks styled in an elegant crown. Minimal jewelry except for her wedding rings and a small gold locket containing a photo of her daughter. The message was clear. Wife, mother, force of nature. Alexei couldn't stop looking at her. You're stunning, he said as their car pulled up. I'm strategic, Naomi replied, adjusting her necklace. There's a difference. Both can be true. She smiled slightly. Let's hope your behavior matches your words tonight. It will, he promised. It will. What Naomi hadn't told Alexei, Isabella had tried to buy a ticket. Through a board member Naomi had suspected was financially compromised. The member had quietly approached Naomi 3 weeks earlier, asking if Miss Crane's donation and attendance would be acceptable. Naomi had said no. Then she'd investigated the board member, found gambling debts, a pattern of selling access. She'd had him quietly removed from the board. But Isabella was resourceful and desperate. At 8:47 p.m., she showed up anyway. Not with a ticket, she bribed building security, paid someone $5,000 to let her slip in through a service entrance. She emerged into the ballroom wearing a dress that was more provocation than evening wear. Every head turned, including Alexei's, for half a second of shock. Then he immediately turned back to Naomi. I didn't know. I know, Naomi said calmly. She's not your fault. She's her own bad decision. Should I have her removed? Not yet. Naomi's smile was sharp. Let her come to us. I want witnesses. Isabella made her way through the crowd like a missile locked on target. She stopped directly in front of Naomi and Alexei, smile vicious. Well, Isabella said, voice carrying, don't you two look domestic? Naomi sipped her champagne. Isabella, I thought we discussed you staying away from my family. This is a charity event. Public. I have every right to be here. You bribe security with money you don't have to enter an event you weren't invited to, Naomi replied calmly. But fine, let's do this publicly. The conversations around them stopped. People turned to watch. This was about to be a scene, and Naomi had planned for it. Isabella smiled triumphantly. Alexei, don't you miss? No, he interrupted. Firm, clear, loud enough for nearby guests to hear. I don't. Isabella's smile cracked. You're only saying that because she's here, because she trapped you with that contract. She didn't trap me, Alexei said, voice steady. I trapped myself, with my choices, my lies, my weakness. He turned to address the crowd that had formed. Most of you know me as a businessman, an investor, a philanthropist. He paused. For the past 2 years, I was also a liar, a cheat, and a terrible husband. Gasps rippled through the ballroom. I had an affair with Miss Crane. My wife discovered it while she was pregnant, and instead of leaving, which she had every right, every reason to do, she gave me a chance to rebuild, to prove I could be the man our marriage required. He looked directly at Isabella. You were a symptom of my emptiness, not a solution to anything. And I used you because I was too much of a coward to face what I was becoming. Then he turned to Naomi. My wife is the strongest person I know. She carried our daughter while I betrayed her. She built this foundation while I threw away our marriage. And she's standing here tonight, giving me another chance, because she believes people can change. His voice cracked slightly. I don't deserve her, but I'm going to spend the rest of my life trying to be worthy of that belief. The room was utterly silent. Then one person started clapping. Elena Volkov. Standing at the edge of the crowd, pride evident on her face. Then another guest joined, and another, until the entire ballroom was applauding. Not for Alexei, for Naomi. Isabella's face went from white to red to purple. You think you've won? She hissed at Naomi, loud enough for those nearby to hear. You trapped him with that contract. That's not love, that's blackmail. He doesn't actually want you, he's just afraid of losing his money. Naomi set down her champagne glass with deliberate calm. You're partially right, she said clearly. I did use the contract, because that's what it was designed for, accountability, consequences, the requirement that marriage actually means something. She stepped closer to Isabella, voice dropping but still carrying to the watching crowd. But here's what you don't understand about power, Isabella. It's not about being wanted. It's not about being beautiful or young or available. It's about being irreplaceable. Naomi gestured subtly around the room. This foundation, I built it from an idea into an organization that's helped 3,000 families this year alone. These board members, I recruited them. The legal structures protecting this family's interests, I designed them. I didn't trap my husband. I became the infrastructure of his entire life. That's not blackmail. That's strategy. Isabella's hands trembled. You're a monster. No, Naomi said softly, almost kindly. I'm a woman who refused to be erased, and you're someone who mistook access for power. She turned to the two security guards who'd been standing discreetly nearby. Not Alexei's men, but her own private security that Elena had insisted she hire after the restaurant incident. Miss Crane was just leaving, Naomi said. Isabella looked at Alexei desperately. You're really going to let her? She's not letting me do anything, Alexei interrupted, voice firm. This is my choice. We're done, Isabella, permanently. And if you contact anyone in this family again, my lawyers will pursue harassment charges. He pulled out his phone, showed her a screen, a restraining order, already filed, waiting only for a judge's signature, which would happen if she violated the terms. You have 24 hours to leave New York, he said. After that, this becomes active. Choose wisely. Security escorted Isabella toward the exit, not roughly, but inexorably. As she passed through the ballroom doors, she turned back once, met Naomi's eyes. Naomi didn't gloat, didn't smile victoriously. She simply nodded once. Acknowledgement. Closure. Then Isabella was gone. By morning, the story was everywhere. Tech billionaire publicly admits affair, credits wife for saving marriage. Naomi Volkov, the woman who redefined power in Manhattan's elite circles. Ancient blood oath tradition. How one woman used old-world consequences to save modern marriage. The press loved it. A brilliant black woman who'd outmaneuvered a mistress and reformed a billionaire using Russian tradition and modern strategy. 3 major morning shows requested interviews. Naomi declined them all. I'm not interested in being famous for my husband's mistakes, she told their PR team. But I am interested in talking about the foundation's work. She gave one interview to a respected journalist known for serious reporting. The question, How did you find the strength to stay and fight rather than leave? Naomi's answer. I didn't stay to fight for him. I stayed to fight for me, for my daughter, for the life I'd built. Leaving would have been easier. Staying and demanding accountability was harder. But I refused to let anyone, not even my husband, make me abandon what I've created. The interview went viral, not because of the scandal, because of the message. That night, back at their penthouse, Naomi sat in the nursery, rocking their 6-month-old daughter. Alexei appeared in the doorway, loosening his tie. That was quite a speech tonight, Naomi said softly, not looking up. It was overdue. He sat in the chair beside her. Did I embarrass you? No, she finally met his eyes. You honored me. Finally. I meant every word. I know, she paused. But words are healing, Alexei. The next 6 months of therapy, the continued transparency, the daily choice to stay committed, those will be the real test. I can do hard. You'd better, Naomi said, voice gentle but firm, because if you fail again, I won't just take your money, I'll take your daughter's respect, your family's trust, your legacy, and I'll make sure everyone knows exactly why. He nodded slowly, understanding the full weight. Understood. Good. She handed him their daughter. Your turn for diaper duty. He took the baby carefully, smiled down at her tiny, perfect face. This is the best deal I've ever signed. It's the only deal that matters, Naomi replied. 3 days later, Isabella tried one last time. A drunk phone call at 2:47 a.m. Alexei's phone rang. He answered immediately, not wanting it to wake Naomi. Alexei? Isabella's voice, slurred and desperate. I miss you. I made a mistake. We can… Isabella, stop. Please, I love you. I never meant to… I'm going to say this once, and then I'm blocking this number, Alexei said quietly, firmly. You don't love me. You loved what I represented, and I didn't love you. I used you to avoid dealing with my own inadequacies. That's not… It is, and I'm sorry for that. I'm sorry I hurt you, but this is done. I'm with my wife. We're in counseling. We're rebuilding, and I will not risk that again. She's controlling you with that contract. The contract is the only reason I still have a family, Alexei interrupted, and a future, and I'm grateful for it. Lose this number, Isabella. Move on. Build something real for yourself. He hung up, blocked her number, deleted her contact. In the bed beside him, Naomi rolled over, eyes open in the darkness. Was that for my benefit? She asked quietly. No, Alexei said honestly. That was for mine, for the man I'm trying to become. She reached for his hand, squeezed it once. Then we're making progress. 12 months after signing the amended blood oath, 12 months of twice-weekly therapy, of Alexei coming home every single night, of slowly, painfully rebuilding trust, Naomi called another family meeting. Elena, Alexei, the family lawyers, the private arbitrators. We're here to revisit the oath terms, as agreed, Naomi announced. She slid new documents across the conference table. Proposed Second Amendment. The original penalties remain in place. If either party violates our marriage bond through infidelity, betrayal, or abandonment, everything transfers to the wrong spouse and consequences follow. But we're adding partnership clauses. What kind of clauses? Elena asked, leaning forward with interest. Equality clauses, Naomi said. Joint control of all assets acquired during marriage. Equal decision-making authority in business ventures that affect family interests. And, this is important, if I violate the bond, the same penalties apply to me. The room went silent. Alexei stared at her. You're making it equal? I'm making it a partnership, Naomi corrected. The First Amendment was about accountability and consequences. This one is about trust. We both have skin in the game now. We both have everything to lose. We both have everything to gain. She met Elena's sharp gaze. I trust him now. Not blindly, I'll never be that naive again. But I trust that he understands what we've built, and I want our marriage to reflect that. Elena studied the documents carefully, then looked at Naomi with something like wonder. You're making yourself just as vulnerable as him. That's what partnership means, Naomi said simply. Equal risk, equal power, equal consequences. Alexei picked up the pen, then paused. Are you sure? I'm sure that I don't want to be married to someone I'm controlling, Naomi said. I want to be married to someone I'm building with. Someone who chooses me every day, not because a contract forces him to, but because he actually wants to. She smiled slightly. You've shown me that person over the past year. So yes, I'm sure. He signed without further hesitation. So did she. In blood, as tradition required. But this time, it felt like a beginning instead of insurance. While their marriage healed, Naomi had thrown herself into the Volkov Foundation. No longer content to be a figurehead, she'd restructured it entirely. New mission: supporting refugee women and children with legal aid, education, housing assistance, and microloans for small businesses. Everything she'd wanted to do before marrying Alexei, now funded by Volkov money and backed by Volkov influence. The irony wasn't lost on her. She'd found more power in this compromised position than she ever would have alone. Within the first year, the foundation helped 3,000 families. By 18 months, it had expanded to 3 cities. Forbes ran a feature, Naomi Volkov, turning old money into new hope. The interviewer asked, how did you convince your husband's family to fund refugee work? Naomi smiled. I didn't convince them. I reminded them they were once refugees too. Alexei's grandfather came to America with nothing but connections and courage. Every powerful family started somewhere desperate. They just forgot. She paused, choosing her words carefully. Power isn't about how high you climb. It's about who you lift on the way up. The article went viral. 3 other billionaire families reached out, wanting to model their foundations after hers. 8 months after the gala, 14 months after the restaurant confrontation, an envelope arrived at the foundation office, postmarked from Paris, from Isabella Crane. Naomi almost threw it away. Then curiosity won. She opened it. I don't expect forgiveness. I don't even expect you to read this, but I needed to say it anyway. You were right about everything. I wasn't special. I was convenient. I was playing dress-up in a life I didn't build, with jewelry I didn't earn, pretending that being wanted was the same as being valued. I was cruel to you because I was jealous of something I couldn't understand. You had power I couldn't buy, strength I couldn't fake, and a kind of love I couldn't steal. The kind that's built on partnership, not possession. I'm in Paris now, working as an actual brand consultant, for real this time. No quotation marks. I'm building something legitimate for the first time in my adult life. It's hard, it's humbling, and every time I'm tempted to take shortcuts, I think about you. About how you built your power stone by stone, document by document, choice by choice. I don't need a response. I just needed you to know. You taught me what real power looks like. It's not a diamond necklace or a billionaire's attention. It's a blood oath you're willing to honor. Thank you for not destroying me when you could have. Thank you for showing me there was another way. Isabella. Naomi read it 3 times. Then she did something she hadn't planned on. She wrote back. Isabella, thank you for the letter. I won't pretend we'll be friends, too much has happened. But I will say this. Everyone deserves a second chance to build something real. The difference between transformation and performance is time. Keep building, keep being honest, and in 5 years you'll look back and barely recognize the person you were. I hope Paris treats you well. Naomi. She sealed it, sent it, and never heard from Isabella again. And that was okay. Some stories end with destruction. The best ones end with evolution. 2 years after the restaurant confrontation, 26 months of therapy, accountability, and rebuilt trust, Naomi stood in the same Manhattan restaurant, same corner table, but this time everything was different. Alexei sat across from her, relaxed and present. Their daughter, now 2 years old, colored happily in a high chair between them, babbling in a mixture of English and Russian that made them both laugh. "This is where you threatened to destroy my entire life," Alexei said with a small, genuine smile. "This is where I saved both our lives," Naomi corrected. "There's a difference." "Fair point." He reached across the table, taking her hand. The wedding ring on his finger caught the light. He never took it off anymore. "Thank you." "For what?" "For not giving up. On me. On us. On the possibility that people can actually change if they're willing to do the work." Naomi squeezed his hand. "You did the changing. I just held you accountable." "That's love," Alexei said quietly. "The real kind. Not the easy infatuation. Not the performance. The hard, uncomfortable, choose-you-everyday kind." Their daughter dropped her crayon. Both parents reached for it at the same time, hands colliding. They laughed. "We're going to mess her up so badly," Naomi said, retrieving the crayon. "Probably," Alexei agreed, wiping tomato sauce off their daughter's face. "But at least we're doing it together, as actual partners. And if you ever cheat again, you'll take everything I own, notify all my enemies, and make sure our daughter knows exactly why," Alexei finished. "I'm aware, very aware." "Good," Naomi smiled. "Just checking." He raised his water glass. They'd both stopped drinking at therapy, deciding clear heads made better choices. To blood oaths and second chances. She clinked her glass against his. To women who refuse to be erased, and to the men smart enough not to try. Their daughter raised her sippy cup, mimicking them. "Cheers," she said in her toddler voice. They both laughed, and in that moment, imperfect, complicated, real, Naomi knew they'd made it. Not because the contract protected them, but because they'd chosen to protect each other. 3 months later, Naomi was invited to keynote the National Women in Leadership Summit. The venue was packed, 800 women, standing room only. She stood on stage, poised and powerful, holding the microphone like she'd been born to it. "Everyone wants to know about the blood oath," she began, "about the ancient Russian contract that saved my marriage. But here's what they don't understand. The contract didn't save anything. I did." The room went silent, leaning forward. "I saved myself by refusing to be a victim, by building my own power, by documenting evidence, by making myself so valuable that losing me would cost everything." She paused, letting that land. "You don't need an ancient contract to do that. You just need boundaries, documentation, strategy, and the absolute certainty that you are worth more than anyone's betrayal." Applause rippled through the audience. So to every woman who's been called crazy for keeping receipts, paranoid for trusting her instincts, cold for protecting herself, you're not any of those things. Her voice strengthened. You're smart. You're strategic. You're refusing to accept less than you deserve. And one day when someone tries to erase you, or diminish you, or make you question your worth, you'll have exactly what you need to remind them, and yourself, who you are. The standing ovation lasted 4 minutes. That same month, Elena Volkov passed away peacefully in her sleep at age 89. At the will reading, the family learned she'd kept her promise. 20% of her personal estate, $47 million, went directly to Naomi. Not to Alexei, not to family trusts, to Naomi personally. The attached letter was brief. "Naomi, you saved my grandson. You honored our family. You showed us what we'd forgotten, that power without integrity is just tyranny in expensive suits. Use this money to build something that matters. Protect our granddaughter. And never, ever let anyone make you small. You are Volkov now, not by blood, but by something stronger, choice and character. Elena. Naomi read it at the funeral, tears streaming down her face. She used the money to endow the Elena Volkov Refugee Legal Aid Fund. Permanent funding, sustainable, growing, power used to lift others, the way Elena would have wanted. 2.5 years after the restaurant confrontation, Naomi returned to the Georgia World Congress Center, not the place she'd met Alexei, but the site of that year's National Philanthropy Awards. The Volkov Foundation had been nominated for Humanitarian Organization of the Year. They won. Naomi walked to the stage, not alone this time. Alexei beside her, their daughter on his hip, both of them there to support her moment. She accepted the award and looked out at the crowd of 2,000 people. 3 years ago, she began, I was pregnant, betrayed, and holding a contract that gave me the power to destroy my husband's life. The crowd leaned in. I didn't use it to destroy. I used it to demand accountability, to require change, to insist that marriage means something more than convenience. She glanced at Alexei, who smiled, proud, supportive, present. Today we've helped 10,000 families rebuild their lives. We've provided legal aid, housing, education, and opportunity. And we've proven that the best revenge isn't destruction. She held up the award. It's building something so extraordinary that your past pain becomes someone else's future hope. The applause shook the rafters. And Naomi Volkov, immigrant's granddaughter, lawyer, wife, mother, philanthropist, woman who refused to be erased, smiled. Not because she'd won, but because she'd transformed winning into something that mattered. The Volkov Foundation has now helped over 15,000 refugee families access legal aid, housing, and education. Naomi and Alexei renewed their vows on their 5th anniversary, this time without the blood oath. They didn't need it anymore. Isabella Crane runs a successful branding consultancy in Paris and has never returned to New York. She donated anonymously to the Volkov Foundation last year. And their daughter? She's learning 3 languages, her mother's determination, and her father's capacity for change. Because the best lesson you can teach a child isn't perfection, it's accountability, redemption, and the courage to demand better, from yourself and everyone around you. Thank you for watching to the end. Naomi's story isn't just about revenge or contracts or public confrontations. It's about a woman who understood that love without accountability isn't love. It's just convenience with better lighting. So let me ask you this. Which part of Naomi's story resonated with you most? Was it her patience, spending 21 months gathering evidence instead of reacting emotionally? Was it her strategy, using an ancient blood oath to protect herself while demanding change? Was it her grace, giving Alexei a structured path to redemption instead of immediate destruction? Was it her strength, publicly confronting the mistress without losing her composure? Was it her wisdom, eventually making the contract equal, showing she'd rebuilt trust? Or was it her purpose, transforming her pain into a foundation that helps thousands? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I read every single one. And here's the deeper question. Do you think Isabella deserved that response letter? Should Naomi have offered that small grace, or would silence have been better? If you enjoyed this story, please subscribe. These videos take days to research and write. Every twist, every power dynamic, every moment of justice is crafted because we know you're here for stories about women who refuse to accept less than they deserve. Tomorrow's story is equally powerful. A woman discovers her mother-in-law has been slowly poisoning her for 2 years to steal her inheritance. How she turns the tables will leave you speechless. Hit that subscribe button so you don't miss it. Remember, you're not paranoid for trusting your instincts. You're not cold for having boundaries. You're not controlling for demanding accountability. You're just smart enough to know your worth. And that's the most powerful thing you can be. I'll see you tomorrow.